Hear this. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on a beautiful Monday morning. The sun's not up. Very weird doing the show this early. Very excited, though. Shout out to Timothy Bowman, who listens all the time, reposting the stream on X, letting the people know that we are now on at 7 a.m. instead of 10 a.m. And it's the exact same show. If I was doing the show at 10, I'd be opening with the exact same thing. The Colts waltz down to L.A., play the Chargers, tear them up for a few hours, and then they fly back home. Colts plus 1.5 on Sunday was the easiest bet of the day. Second easiest bet, Panthers minus 1.5. Seriously, I mean, like, this Colts team continues, I guess, or continued, because I do think people are coming around now, to be underrated. Daniel Jones is good now. I am as surprised as everybody else is about that. The Colts are running the football better than everybody else in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor's the best running back in football. Alec Pierce has gotten better. Michael Pittman Jr. is still as reliable as ever. Tyler Warren has opened up the offense. The Colts are good. Notice I didn't say anything about the defense, and keep that in mind for later, mainly because the offense is the story coming out of Sunday. Here is J.J. Watt, former Texan. He called the Colts game along with Ian Eagle on Sunday. Here he is after the game on CBS talking about this Colts juggernaut of an offense.
You can't pick one spot. This Colts offense has no weaknesses right now. They can run the ball when they want to. They can throw the ball when they want to. Screens, play actions. They have everything going. And it all happens because of that offensive line. That offensive line deserves a ton of credit. They stay ahead of the sticks. They are almost never in a first down situation where they don't pick up 4, 5, 6 yards, putting them in second and manageable. They just do such an incredible job of moving their way down the field efficiently. And Daniel Jones is spreading the ball all over the place, and Jonathan Taylor's playing like a very, very legitimate MVP candidate.
J.J. Watt right there talking about the Indianapolis Colts offense after calling their game on Sunday. This Colts team, man. The offense. I'm not going to say very much about the defense for this first little bit, but the offense, I said it last week. I think I said it 2 weeks ago. This is still hands down the best offense in the NFL. There are other good offenses in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. The Chiefs, they're flirting with the Colts at the top of the NFL after, getting Rashee Rice back. They beat the Raiders yesterday 35-0. I mean, Colts and Chiefs kind of seem like the two best teams in this conference as of right now. The Lions, they can score points against bad teams. Would like to see them score points against the better defenses in the NFL. The Cowboys, they can run it up there. They put up 40 again on Sunday. But the Colts offense is simply more complete than everyone else's. When I compare this Colts offense to, the Chiefs and the Lions and the Cowboys, the teams that I would argue have the other three best offenses in the NFL, there's something that the Colts do better than all of them. The Colts run the football better than the Chiefs do. The Chiefs, it's a lot of passing. All right, the Colts also have more depth at wide receiver. It's the reality of it. Between Alec Pierce and Josh Downs, who I know didn't play on Sunday, Alec Pierce and Josh Downs and A.D. Mitchell, like a good receiver who the Colts have the luxury, or a talented receiver that the Colts have the luxury of putting in the doghouse for making a mistake. You can only do that if you have a lot of good receivers. So you got Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren, who's, probably going to continue to lead tight ends in receiving yards after this game on Sunday, and so on. It's so much deeper than the Chiefs, who have a 35-year-old tight end who's kind of getting load managed. Rashee Rice, who's a very consistent down-to-down guy. Brashard Smith, you don't even know who that is. Tyquan Thornton, an old Juju Smith-Schuster, and then kind of a gadget guy in Xavier Worthy. The Colts are more talented at receiver than the Chiefs are. They can also run the football. Ever since Isaiah Pacheco broke his femur and came back, he just hasn't been as good. Certainly not as good as Jonathan Taylor, who, as J.J. Watt said right there in that clip, is playing like a legitimate MVP candidate. The Cowboys, they can't run the ball the way that the Colts can. The Lions haven't shown that they can score points against a good defense. It is so incredible watching this offense. And it was just like a normal Sunday where the Colts offense carried the load and we didn't think twice about it, even though they scored on 6 of their 8 possessions. 5 of their 8 possessions were touchdowns. And the defense continues to be opportunistic. Timothy Bowman over on X asking if the Colts will make a trade, before the deadline. I'm going to assume that they will. I just don't know who they're going to make a trade for. That's really kind of the question. I know everyone's kind of pounding the table for an edge rusher and all these things. I think corner, I think that's a much bigger issue right now than the defensive line is. Right. But to be fair to the Colts defense on yesterday, they were incredibly opportunistic. Grover Stewart bats the ball in the air, and then he picks the ball off. Incredible. Latu with 2 interceptions on the year, and Grover Stewart now has 1, right? And he did all the work there too, right? He's the one who tipped it. Ball just kind of fell right back down into his lap. Nick Cross had a really nice interception on a ball that Justin Herbert just left on his receiver's back hip. If that ball's out in front, then it's probably a Chargers touchdown. But credit to Nick Cross for stepping up and making a play that needed to be made. Aside from that, I didn't really feel like the defense played well. But your defense doesn't have to play well when your offense is as efficient as the Colts was. Daniel Jones, just a very casual 23-34 for 288 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, only sacked once. Just another uber efficient day from him. Efficient, that has been the word to describe Daniel Jones this season. Jonathan Taylor, 16 carries for 94 yards. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't win Offensive Player of the Year, it's just going to be because the Colts have blown all these teams out, and so he's not carrying the football as much. 16 carries, 94 yards, another hat trick, 3 touchdowns in the game. It's his 3rd time this year scoring 3 touchdowns or more in a game. Amir Abdullah, older player. I remember when he played at Nebraska. Dude could fly. You know, he had the big kickoff return, right? 2 carries for 19 yards. Like, the dude can just move, man, and it's super impressive, right? And then you got the Colts receiving core. Just another uber balanced day from the Colts receivers. Alec Pierce, 5 receptions for 98 yards. Tyler Warren had 4 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr., 7 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor had 3 receptions as well. Just, you know, a very efficient day from this Colts offense. When you have the ball 8 times, minus the final possession where the Colts kneeled it out, so technically they had it 9 times, but I'm not going to count that final possession because they weren't really trying to score. They had the football 8 times. They scored on six of those possessions. If you're going to score on 75% of your drives, if you're going to go 6 for 8 on a weekly basis, which is something that the Colts are doing. Again, the efficiency with which this offense is operating is incredible. 33 against the Dolphins, 29 against the Broncos, 41 against the Titans, 40 against the Raiders, 31 against the Cardinals, and then 38 yesterday. It's just, it's incredibly efficient. And if you're going to score on 75% of your drives, if you're going to go 6 for 8, even if it's all field goals, and you're sitting at 24 points a game, then you're going to win a lot of games, especially when you score a touchdown on, 5 of those trips, right? They reached the end zone on that final, or they could have reached the end zone on that final possession before the half, but it was very clear that Coach Steichen was trying to play extremely conservative. He didn't want to give the football back. I believe that if they had pushed it they probably would have scored another touchdown. So that sadly snapped their streak. They had like a 3-game streak of scoring a touchdown on every red zone possession. It is just so impressive watching the way that this offense has operated. I mean, it's just incredible. And just to go back to that final possession before halftime, I don't usually rag on guys that are calling the games. I like Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt. I love the enthusiasm with which Ian Eagle calls games. With that being said, I don't know why Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt were complaining about the Colts' end-of-the-half clock management. I thought it was very smart on Shane Steichen's part to not give the football back. They didn't want to give the ball back to the Chargers because if they had, then the Chargers would have had a chance to double them up. The New England Patriots with Tom Brady and Coach Belichick were awesome at this. They would defer, they'd come out, the quarter would happen. In the final 4 minutes, the Patriots would score a touchdown, not let you score, and then they'd score a touchdown to open the second half. And before you know it, it's a 14-point swing in an incredibly short amount of time. And with the way that this Colts defense is playing and the fact that Justin Herbert's on the other side, that was 1,000% in play for the Chargers. So here is Coach Steichen after the game talking about that end-of-the-half clock management.
Yeah, you always want to score touchdowns. I think it depends on field position, but definitely with 10 over there, we know that, they're an explosive offense with him. But felt good about the calls too. You know what I mean? I think that's part of it, field position and where you're at and feeling good with the calls. And I got a lot of trust and faith in our guys on offense to go execute it. So, that's kind of the thought process there.
Shane Steichen right there talking about his end-of-the-half decision to play it a little more conservatively, right? Plus, it's not like the Colts went into the half up 3, and they could have gone into the half up 7. They went into the half up 20. That's not too bad. Would 24 have been nicer? Absolutely. But 20, not too bad. I will take the Colts having a 20-point lead going into halftime every day of the week. Every day of the week. So don't really know why Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt were complaining about the Colts offense there. In the second half, they cooled down a little bit. Right? Part of that was the Chargers had the ball so much. Right? The Chargers held the football for over 20 minutes of that second half. The Colts had it for less than 10. Another I don't know about very impressive, but another impressive part of the Colts win yesterday was the fact that they just never let the game get interesting. I don't know. Look, the Broncos and Giants were on at the same time as the Colts, so maybe you missed this game. But the Giants went into the fourth quarter up 19-0 against the Broncos, and they lost. The Colts never were even in danger of letting anything like that happen. The Chargers come out, and they score a very quick touchdown to open the second half. Justin Herbert on time. He's making plays, using his legs, showing off the arm. And then it's like, all right, I remember sitting at home being like, all right, here we go. This might get interesting here. What are the Colts going to do on this next possession? And then Abdullah just has like a very casual 81-yard kickoff return. It's like, oh, they're already in the red zone. They're at least going to get 3 points here more than likely. And then the Chargers, and then two plays later, they run this little sweep to Jonathan Taylor. He runs the ball into the end zone. You're just like, all right, back up by 20. Just super impressive, the Colts' ability to keep the Chargers at arm's length, right? So, Colts are up by 21. The Chargers come back, score another touchdown. They cut the lead down to 14. And you're like, all right, Colts, just go score again. And this game kind of feels over. And then the Colts go 3-and-out. And they give the ball back to the Chargers with about 12 minutes and 40 seconds left. And I didn't think that the Colts defense did a ton well yesterday. Obviously, the 2 interceptions were big. But this possession by the Chargers, where they get the football with just under 13 minutes left to go in the game, was huge because they're only down by 2 scores. And with 13 minutes left, essentially a whole quarter, a touchdown, a stop, and a touchdown was 1,000% in play for the Chargers in that spot. That's usually plenty of time to score, get a stop, and then score again. That didn't happen. The Colts sat back, allowed the Chargers just to kind of dink and dunk their way down the field. And they didn't give up any big plays. Because if they'd given up a big play, then the Colts would have been in real trouble because that could have led to a quick touchdown for LA. All of a sudden, you're only up 7. And then we kind of see what happens from there. But the Colts sat back. They let the Chargers dink and dunk their way down the field. And the Chargers took like 9 minutes off the clock in that possession. You can only play that style of defense if you tackle well. Tackling was a major issue for the Indianapolis Colts last year. They were arguably the worst tackling team in the NFL. It's part of why the Gus Bradley defense didn't work. Sit back in zone, come up and make the tackle whenever you need to. And the Colts couldn't come up and make the tackles whenever they needed to. This year, they absolutely can. The Colts have done a much better job this year of not missing tackles. And that is what allowed them, or part of what allowed them, to win the game yesterday and to, more importantly, keep the game from even getting interesting. The Chargers never had a chance. Never had a chance. And part of it was the Colts' end-of-game defense, the sure tackling, and all those things. And that has led to them, with an extremely high-powered offense, that has led them to being 6-1, something that very few people saw coming. And I like this team's good, and it's nice that everyone is finally coming around to how good this Colts team is. More on that in 4 minutes.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 a.m. The show used to be at 10. It is now at 7. And it's the same show. We're still talking about how good these Indianapolis Colts are. Okay, the Colts are 6-1. Very few people saw that coming. Honestly, I don't know if anybody did. Maybe you thought the Colts would be good. I don't think anyone expected them to have a pretty firm grasp of the 1 seed in the AFC 7 weeks into the season. Daniel Jones was asked many questions after the game, talked a little bit about Jonathan Taylor, and he talked a little bit about how good this Colts team is.
Daniel, congrats on the win. 3 straight wins, 3 straight games, 30-plus points. How's this offense and you leading it making it look so easy?
I think just, trying to execute at a high level. I think we're prepared going in. Coaches have done a great job game planning us, getting us ready, and then we've executed. I think the guys up front have played great. We've been able to run it. We've been able to throw it. So stuff to work on, but, something to build on.
Not that you care, but those of us on the outside, I think, are a little surprised at just how well this team is playing to start the season. What do we need to know about this group that maybe we didn't know going into the year?
I don't know. It sounds like y'all didn't know much, but we're just going to keep going, keep working, and we have a lot of confidence. I think we got a lot of good players, guys who work hard and do the right things.
You mentioned confidence. You've been playing this position for a long time. How much confidence are you playing with right now?
Yeah, I think, confident in our execution and who we have, and our, how prepared we are going in week to week. But, very, very confident. I think we all are.
Last one for you. You've been around a lot of great backs as well. What does Jonathan Taylor bring to this group?
Yeah, he's tremendous. He's incredible. Big game from him again today. It seems like week after week he shows up and pops those big runs. A couple in the red zone there that are real difference makers. But he's tremendous and has played at a really, really high level all season.
Daniel Jones with many, many things said there. And I love, he gets asked out, what do, no one really saw this coming. What do we need to know about you guys or whatever? And he was like, it sounds like you didn't know very much. End up. Me. No idea. Didn't see this coming. I didn't think they'd be very good. Thought this was like a 7-ish win team. I thought that 7.5 number that Vegas put out, I thought it was a good number. And it clearly, or so far at least, it seems like it isn't. I'm very intrigued to see how the Indianapolis Colts are discussed as of today, because people just find a way at every turn to discredit this team. Right, that is what this team does. Or that is what people have done to this team. And the Colts are about, they're not about, they're legitimately 6-1. And waking up today, if people compared them to the 2009 Broncos or the 2003 Vikings, 2 teams that started 6-0 and didn't make the playoffs, I legitimately wouldn't be surprised, because for some reason, people just can't seem to buy into this team. And when I say for some reason, I'm acting as if I don't know that the reason why is Daniel Jones, who's just been so freaking elite. Coming into the year, my expectation for the Colts was they're going to run the ball really well, but I didn't think that the passing game would be consistent enough for the offense to be this good. I also didn't think that their defense would be good enough for them to be able to stack wins like this. And it turns out when you just score every time that you have the football, it doesn't really matter how good your defense is as long as they force a turnover or 2 in every game that they play. And that is what they have done this year. They have forced just They forced at least one turnover in every game, and Daniel Jones just been like, hey, it's almost like I was taken 6th overall for a reason. And all of a sudden, Daniel Jones is playing at an incredibly elite level. You could argue him, to be MVP. My vote still remains with Baker Mayfield, but if you wanted to cast it for Daniel Jones, then hey, I would totally understand that. Here's Colts head coach Shane Steichen after the game talking about this Colts team and Daniel Jones in particular.
Yeah, I mean, we got to keep going. But I think those guys are connected at the hip. Like I said, it's this stuff you don't see behind the scenes. The work that's put in every day. I mean, Daniel's, as good as it gets when it comes to the preparation. He's going to be prepared, and I just have no doubt he's going to go out and play well every time we step on the field. And I think our guys know that. And he gets us going. Our offensive line sets the tone, but his preparation is just off the charts.
Shane Steichen right there. When you feel that way about your quarterback, when you feel like every time he steps out on the field, he's going to play well, then you're going to have an opportunity to beat everybody. Lamar Jackson is going to come back to the Ravens here this next week, it looks like. And they're going to have a chance to beat everybody because every time Lamar Jackson steps out on the field, you just kind of expect for him to play really well. Okay, the consistency of the offense, the consistency of the offense with the Colts continues to be the most impressive thing from this team. And it's the reason why they keep winning games. It's the reason why they keep scoring at such a high clip. They never get behind the sticks. They're always on schedule. They always go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 6 to 3rd and 2 to 1st and 10. And there are obviously big plays mixed in there, but their ability to just continuously be on schedule is so impressive. They're running the ball at will. Daniel Jones continues to make the right decisions with the football. That was his biggest issue in New York. And Shane Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter have done something to either simplify the game, help him see a little bit clearer. Maybe Daniel Jones is doing a little more prep work here in Indy than he did in New York. I don't know. Something happened, though, where now all of a sudden he just doesn't make bad decisions. And when you can run the ball and you don't turn it over and your quarterback is as efficient as Daniel Jones has been this year, then you're going to score a lot of points. And then you throw in the fact that this Colts defense has forced at least one turnover in every game, and it leads to you being 6-1. I still don't think that this defense is consistent enough for the Colts to make a Super Bowl run. That's what the trade deadline's for, right? I know everyone's pounding the table for an edge rusher. I think they need a corner. I think that would go much further in helping this defense find success. Right, have someone out there not named Jonathan Edwards, who was an undrafted free agent this year, and give this defensive line an extra 0.3 of a second to get home, and watch the sack numbers tick up a little bit. Okay, so this defense has to be a little more consistent. Right, when Justin Herbert didn't have a ball tipped for an interception, he tore the Colts up with his 6th best offensive tackle playing legitimate snaps at times. Okay. Now, at the same time, very hard to lose when you score on pretty much every possession. So if the Colts offense continues to be this efficient, then the only way that anybody is going to beat this Indianapolis Colts team is to beat them like 38-35. And look, the Colts defense, it's bad enough to allow that to happen. But there are only a handful of quarterbacks in the NFL good enough to run offenses that can be efficient enough to beat the Colts 38-35. The issue is four of those quarterbacks seem to play in the AFC. That's kind of my caution with the Colts. But I mean, the offense, just no questions, no notes. The offensive line, you could argue that it's the best in the NFL. Seriously, you make that argument every day of the week. They give up 1 sack yesterday. Daniel Jones stays incredibly clean. Otter Creek asked over in the YouTube chat, any chance this team can compete if Jones goes down? No, because Riley Leonard probably isn't ready to play any sort of number of snaps yet. If he was, then they wouldn't have went out and signed, I think, Brett Ripien, whatever his name is, a guy who hadn't played a snap in forever. Like they wouldn't have gone out and signed him if that was the case. Anthony Richardson obviously hurt, fractured something in his eye. So probably not. If you're signing quarterbacks off the street, then I don't like your chances. But the offensive line has been so good that that's not really much of a concern because Daniel Jones has stayed so incredibly clean. When he runs, he doesn't take hits. He gets down. He slides. He does all those very important things that we never saw Anthony Richardson do in order to stay healthy. It's like, why is Anthony Richardson hurt all the time? Well, I don't know. Maybe because he doesn't know how to slide. And then the Colts now have a quarterback in Daniel Jones who does know how to slide. Seriously. And that does so much for you. Like last year, you would watch Anthony Richardson get out of the pocket and take off. And there was like a party that's like, this is really cool. 6'4", rumbling and tumbling at, 4.4 speed. But then, a strong safety would come over and crack him pretty good. And all that excitement very quickly turned into like, oh no, man, like, is he going to get up? That is not the feeling with Daniel Jones. He slides. Even when he does take a hit, he gets down. Super impressed by Daniel Jones and the Colts offense. So Otter Creek, to answer your question, no, I don't think that the Colts can compete if Daniel Jones goes down. With that being said, your point is very valid. This is an elite comment here. Anything can happen. Colts getting concussions in practice and fracturing their face while exercising. It's a very legitimate point, Otter Creek. But I do think that Daniel Jones is a little more responsible than Anthony Richardson is with the band work. Even though all the reporting on that makes it sound like it was a freak accident. So Colts, man, I just very impressed. The defense feels like they're like three pieces away. Like if they had an edge rush, if like they were able to add an edge rusher, a corner, and a linebacker, I'd feel way better about them. But if they can just add an edge rusher or a corner, I'll feel significantly better about this team going forward. Because when you have the best offense in football, you don't have to have a top 10 defense. You just need a top 16 defense. And I do think that the Colts are an edge rusher or corner away from really having that. So hopefully with the trade deadline coming up, November 3rd, November 8th, I get them flipped. That is the trade deadline. And hopefully the Colts will have an idea of who they want and they can make a move for who they want before that happens. A lot of buzz around Daniel Jones. And I've talked about Daniel Jones quite a bit, as I should, right? Another really impressive game. He is, this year Sam Darnold or whatever. And with that being said, he's not the best player on this offense. He's not. The best player on this offense is Jonathan Taylor, and it is officially time to start the Jonathan Taylor for MVP train, and I'll do that in 4 minutes.
Morning, Zoe. Got donuts.
Jeff Bridges, why are you still living above our garage?
Well, I dig the mattress, and I want to be in a T-Mobile commercial like you. Teach me, Saldana.
Oh, no, I'm not really prepared. I couldn't possibly. At T-Mobile, get the new iPhone 17 Pro on them. It's designed to be the most powerful iPhone yet and has the ultimate pro camera system.
Wow, impressive. Let me try. T-Mobile is the best place to get iPhone 17 Pro because they've got the best network.
Nice, Jeffrey.
You heard them. T-Mobile is the best place to get the new iPhone 17 Pro on us with eligible trade-in in any condition.
So, what are we having for lunch?
Dude, my work here is done.
24 monthly bill credits on experience beyond for well-qualified customers plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Credits end and balance due if you pay off earlier. Cancel. Finance agreement iPhone 17 Pro 256 gigs, $1,099.99 and new line minimum $100 plus a month plan with auto pay plus taxes and fees required. Best mobile network in the U.S. based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data 1H 2025. Visit T-Mobile.com.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe watch the show on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app. Oh, man, what a day. It's not even a day yet. It's 7:40 in the morning. New show time. It's been a blast. Love it. Same show, just a little bit earlier in the day, 7 to 9 instead of 10 to noon. The Dan Dockett Show is still on from from noon to 3 every single day. Yeah, this Colts team, man, I just they've got to fix the defense. I feel like I've really been leading that charge pretty hard, really ever since the season started, and been up in it a little bit ever since we realized that this Colts team is legitimately good. By the way, if you're commenting on X, I can see your comments. For some reason, I just can't respond. So anyway, yeah. Jonathan Taylor for MVP. Adrian Peterson in 2012, the year where he ran for like 2,039 yards and 13 touchdowns. That was the last time a non-quarterback won the MVP. And Jonathan Taylor should 1,000% be in the MVP discussion as of this morning. Okay? I mean, you're going to hear people say that, Daniel Jones, what about him? And all those things. But I'm going to go back to this J.J. Watt clip that I played earlier. Listen to J.J. Watt here at the end of this clip.
You can't pick one spot. This Colts offense has no weaknesses right now. They can run the ball when they want to. They can throw the ball when they want to. Screens, play actions. They have everything going. And it all happens because of that offensive line. That offensive line deserves a ton of credit. They stay ahead of the sticks. They are almost never in a first down situation where they don't pick up 4, 5, 6 yards, putting them in second and manageable. They just do such an incredible job of moving their way down the field efficiently. And Daniel Jones is spreading the ball all over the place, and Jonathan Taylor's playing like a very, very legitimate MVP candidate.
JJ Watt right there. You hear him there at the end? Jonathan Taylor playing like a very, very legitimate MVP candidate. I mean, the dude's having a heck of a year. And people are going to argue for Daniel Jones because he plays quarterback, and that is certainly the most difficult position to play in the NFL. But having a good running back, having a consistent running game, that is what allows everything to be easier. The San Francisco 49ers are 5-2 despite being the second most injured team in the NFL behind the Los Angeles Chargers. The reason why they are is because they have Christian McCaffrey, and they can run the football for 4.5 yards whenever they need to. Jared Goff, he's probably one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL, definitely one of the 12 best. Why? Because when he was in LA, they had Todd Gurley, and they could run the ball at will. And then he ends up in Detroit, where they could no longer run the football, and he struggled, and the Lions were bad. And now the Lions can run the football pretty much at will, and all of a sudden, he's great. The Philadelphia Eagles last year were awesome. You know why? Because Saquon Barkley had the best year of his career. And then this year, Saquon Barkley not as good as he was last year, and all of a sudden, this Eagles offense doesn't look as dynamic. And I think it's the exact same thing with Jonathan Taylor and the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, it starts with him. He allows them to do play action. It's very easy to stay on schedule when you can run the ball on 1st and 10 and look up and be at 2nd and 4 or 2nd and 5. Oh, and then by the way, he'll just randomly take off for 30 yards and score a touchdown. 3 more rushing touchdowns yesterday. Otter Creek pointed it out over in the YouTube chat. Jonathan Taylor could finish the year with 20 touchdowns on the year. I think he's ran for 8 and he's got 1 receiving touchdown. Maybe it's more than that. But I mean, like the dude is just having a heck of a year coming into this week. He was leading the NFL in rushing by over 100 yards. That's incredible. He has 10 rushing touchdowns on the year. When you look at total yards, he's averaging 126 total yards from scrimmage per game. That is rushing yards and receiving yards. That is the 3rd highest mark in the NFL. And guess what? It would be the highest mark in the NFL if the Colts weren't blowing everybody out. Seriously, I mean, like let's just run through this. The Colts beat the Dolphins so badly that Jonathan Taylor only touched the football 21 times in that game. If that's a game in the second, in the 3rd and 4th quarters, then Jonathan Taylor probably touches the football another 7 times. Against the Broncos, he touched the ball 27 times. Against the Titans, he only had 20 touches because the game wasn't close, and he sat out the final possession. Against the Rams, he only touched the ball 22 times. You know, big play from him, wiped off the board by the Adonai Mitchell hold. Against the Raiders, same thing as what happened against the Dolphins and the Titans. They're up so much, they pull the starters. Jonathan Taylor only touched the football 20 times. Against the Cardinals, he has 25 touches. And what does he do? He has like 137 yards of total offense and a touchdown. Yesterday, blowout win. He only touched the football 19 times. And all he did was have another game where he had over 100 yards of total offense. He ran for 94 yards. Oh, and 3 touchdowns, by the way. I mean, he's playing at such a high level right now. And I think he's the straw that stirs this drink. He makes everything easier for everybody else on this Colts roster. And to me, that is the most valuable player. Who is the guy that makes everything easier? And most of the time, it is the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes makes everything easier for everybody else in Kansas City. Josh Allen does that in Buffalo. Joe Burrow does that in Cincinnati. Lamar Jackson does that in Baltimore. Matthew Stafford does that in LA. Here in Indy, it's Jonathan Taylor. He allows them to do play action. He keeps them on schedule. He can catch the football out of the backfield now. He can block. I mean, just incredible stuff from Jonathan Taylor. He is the engine, and as long as he stays healthy, I don't see a world in which he doesn't have legitimate, chances or a legitimate chance at winning the MVP. I'm going to go try to find it. I'm going to go try to see if I can find the odds. Sometimes they take them down after Sundays. It's kind of annoying whenever they do that, but I mean, really impressive stuff. C. Fitch with a great note over on X saying, I know we're not Chris Ballard's fans, but letting Ryan Kelly and Will Fries walk to free agency and playing Gonsalves and Bortolini in those spots has had a bigger impact than anyone realizes. C. Fitch, I think that is an excellent point. Okay, seriously, like that is just an incredible point. And I've talked about this before. Look, again, we are not the biggest Chris Ballard fans, but his ability to be able to find not just starting caliber, but legitimately good offensive linemen, not in the first round. Like when you look around the NFL and you look at the best offensive linemen, whether it's tackles, guards, or centers, a lot of them are taken in the first round. And then when you look at this Colts offensive line, Matt Gonsalves, starting right guard, was a third-round pick who was originally drafted to play tackle. Your right tackle, Braden Smith, was taken in the second round. Your center, Tanner Bortolini, he was taken in the fourth round. Bernard Ryman, your left tackle, third-round pick. Quentin Nelson's the only premier guy or premier draft pick used on that offensive line. And so, yes, Fitch, I'm with you entirely, especially since Ryan Kelly's hurt. I believe Will Fries is hurt out there in Minnesota as well. All right, here we go. By the way, Jonathan Taylor is now minus 145 to win Offensive Player of the Year. Pretty incredible stuff right there. And then for MVP, he's plus 5,000, which is just absurd to me. He's going to run away with Offensive Player of the Year and only be plus 5,000 in the wow. Jeez, that's absurd to me. Jeez. By the way, Daniel Jones has moved up the ranks for our MVP odds. He is fourth, fifth, sixth. He's seventh now, tied for sixth, I guess, at plus 2,000 behind Patrick Mahomes at plus 175, Josh Allen at plus 350. Baker Mayfield at plus 450. If they win tonight, I'll be very interested to see where that jumps. Drake May is plus 700. Matthew Stafford at plus 1,200. Goff at plus 2,000. And Daniel Jones is at plus 2,000. Daniel Jones now has better odds to win MVP than Lamar Jackson. So that's kind of cool. It's a pretty bizarre thing. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor for MVP. He is the engine of this offense. And I've talked quite a bit about Jonathan Taylor and how much better he's gotten this year. He's become a guy who can go out and can block. He's become a guy who, can catch the football out of the backfield. And there's a guy for the Colts who's gotten better, who I have not said that enough about. Okay? And that is Alec Pierce. The Colts have not extended Alec Pierce yet. I hope they do here at some point. I hope they do. Because that is a guy who has slowly gotten better over the course of his career. He comes out his rookie year and it's not really great, and then he comes out in, his second year and it got worse. Less receptions, less yards, same number of touchdowns. And it got so bad that they drafted A.D. Mitchell. Like that is how much Alec Pierce struggled in his first 2 seasons as an Indianapolis Colt. That they had to go out and they're like, I guess we have to take a receiver here in the second round because I just don't know if this guy is going to figure it out or not. And then he comes out in year 3 and he is just like, you know what? Like, let me just be the best deep threat in the NFL here really quickly. Right. And then, averages 22 yards per reception last year. That led the NFL, 7 touchdowns. And then this year, he still has that in his bag, as the kids say, the ability to stretch the field and to go deep. But he can also run the route tree now. He's more than just, hey, Alec, go run as far as you can, or hey, Alec, how about you run this deep post? Alec Pierce led the Colts in receiving yards yesterday. He caught 5 passes for 98 yards, caught 1 deep ball. They gave him some chances on some others, but it always seemed to be in double coverage or something like that. But late in the game, 3rd and 10, Colts throw the football. Alec Pierce runs an out route. He's open, catches it, sets up Daniel Jones taking a few knees to win the game. Okay, he got a comeback route in the game later as well. I don't think that Alec Pierce is quite yet like a true number 1 wide receiver or anything like that. But at the same time, he's clearly improved. He is, I think, every bit as reliable as Michael Pittman Jr. is. And to give Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen and his coaching staff even more credit, if you're going to be on a team that doesn't draft well and usually doesn't sign free agents, then you better develop players. And to the Colts' credit, they have done that. Alec Pierce is a great example of that. He's gotten better. Jonathan Taylor, he's gotten better. Went from a guy who really only play on 1st and 2nd down to now he's a legitimate 3-down back. Zaire Franklin went as much as I'm unimpressed with Zaire Franklin's ability to play linebacker. To his credit and to the Colts' credit, he was a 7th round pick who's now a starting NFL linebacker who, to his credit, was all pro last year. Adetomiwa Adebawore was a 4th round pick 2 years ago, I believe. He's now playing real snaps on 3rd down because he can rush the passer. Nick Cross, who was awesome yesterday and has been awesome for the Colts all year. Nick Cross was a young 3rd round pick out of USC. And I think he's one of the best strong safeties in the NFL. He doesn't miss tackles, and from last year to this year, he's improved on the back end in coverage on defense. Saw it yesterday with the interception. That's 5 impactful players for the Colts that they have drafted and developed. And they aren't 6-1 without their ability to develop all of these players. Now, if they could just develop A.D. Mitchell, that would be great. We had an A.D. Mitchell sighting yesterday. More on that in 4.5 minutes.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back into the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Hour number 2 getting underway in our new time slot. We are no longer on from 10 a.m. to noon. We are now on from 7 a.m. to 9. The Dan Dockett Show continues, though, from noon to 3 every single day. And A.D. Mitchell finally got back out onto the field yesterday. Caught one pass for 8 yards. Only targeted once. He is still in the doghouse. And I have had, I've had a lot of fun watching A.D. Mitchell just because he's such a wild card, and you don't really know what he's going to say, and he's going to give me something to talk about. But man, I'm kind of surprised at how deep he is in the doghouse. Anthony Gould played more than he did, and part of that is a positional fit. Maybe they like Gould in the slot because of his skill set more than they like A.D. Mitchell in the slot. And all these things. And, I've seen people suggest that whenever the Colts make their trade for a corner, that he should be part of the deal. And I don't think he should be, because having, really good athletic wide receivers that have as much talent as he does, it's just really hard to pass up on that. He's too talented. He's only 23 years old, and he's got 2 years left on his contract. Now, maybe they're a little more willing to part with him because Alec Pierce has turned into the guy that he's turned into. But speaking of Alec Pierce's first 2 seasons in Indianapolis were not good. He was not good his first 2 years here. And maybe A.D. Mitchell's going through a similar thing here. Now, it's clearly different. Alec Pierce wasn't a problem. He wasn't dropping the football before crossing the goal line. He wasn't doing anything like that. He wasn't making mistakes and then saying that he did his job. He wasn't doing any of that, so it's clearly different. But maybe A.D. Mitchell is going to follow a similar path where it's year 3 where he kind of figures it out. I'd be very surprised if the Colts moved him. 23 years old, very talented. 2 more years left on his contract. I think that we see him here in Indianapolis for at least one more season. At least one more season. And then we'll see what happens. But I'm not giving up on him quite yet. I do think that, he's got more than enough talent to wind up being a really, really good player. College football. This is how good the Indianapolis Colts are. The Colts are so good that I, an avid lover of college football, haven't even mentioned the fact that the Indiana Hoosiers are the 2nd ranked team in the country and got 6 votes to be ranked the number 1 team in the country. That's how good the Colts are playing right now. Indiana played Michigan State on Saturday. They're 27.5-point favorites. They only won by 25. What bums. The over-under was 52.5. They only, got to a combined total score of 51. What bums. I didn't bet either one of those things. Thought both lines were a little bit too high. But anyway, Indiana's ranked 2nd. They just took care of business at home in a very emphatic way. Beating up on a bad team, doing what, the Colts do. They had a bad team come into their building, and they beat them 38-13. And this next Saturday, big noon kickoff, let's go. Indiana playing at noon against UCLA, who is a really nice feel-good story. They've won 3 games in a row, the UCLA Bruins have. And they've done it, with like a little mix, like they beat Penn State because they hang 42 on them. And then they, have a really nice all-around game against Michigan State. They beat them 38-13. And then Maryland, they win that game with defense. They beat them 20-17. And now they're coming to Indiana, and they're playing football as well as anyone else in the country is right now. That's what they're doing. Like, they're playing football as well as anyone else in all of college football right now. And I'm heading over to FanDuel to see if I can find the line, because I'm very intrigued to see what it is, because obviously, look, Indiana is going to be favored. They're the home team. They're ranked number 2 in the country. They're playing as well as anyone else is right now. But I'm just curious to kind of see how much they factor into the fact that UCLA is just playing at a super high level. Oh, geez. Indiana favored by 24.5. 24.5. Geez Louise. That is not at all what I was expecting. Not at all. But look, when you're the number 2 ranked team in college football and you're playing, UCLA, who, their record is what it is, then I guess you get the benefit of the doubt. Geez, I was not expecting for 24.5 to pop up there. Geez, man, that's really, really impressive. And it speaks to how good of a football team Indiana has. Fernando Mendoza getting a ton of Heisman buzz right now, as he should, playing at the level that he is playing at. This, like, football in Indiana, like, it's never been better than it is right now. Purdue fans, we're ignoring you. It'd actually be great, Purdue, if you could pull your weight just like a little bit, just like kind of pull your weight, But anyway, we've entered a brand new era of college football. If you looked at the rankings this week, Indiana's ranked 2nd. Incredible. Amazing. Vanderbilt's ranked 10th. They're in the top 10 for the first time since 1947. Didn't even know that they ranked teams back then. Georgia Tech, they're ranked 7th. BYU, they're ranked 11th. And then you have teams like USC and Nebraska and Clemson and Penn State and Florida and Auburn. Like, perennial powerhouses at one point during their histories. All of them are unranked. Florida have just fired their coach. Penn State fired their coach. Lincoln Riley and USC is not on the coldest of seats. Matt Rule may leave Nebraska. Dabo Swinney dared his administration to fire him. Hugh Freeze is he's sitting on a ticking time bomb until he gets fired. It's a brand new era of college football. It is. Also, side note, I don't like all the complaining that happens in college football. I do just want to ask a quick question. Hey, people, Michigan and USC are both 5-2. USC beat Michigan by 3 touchdowns a week ago. What are we doing? Why are we ranking Michigan over USC? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, we're in this new era of college football. And I keep seeing people rank the head coach openings that are available. Okay? Unless you are familiar with the NIL funding and the boosters that could potentially back the program of every job available, unless you were fully aware of all that information, then you don't know what a good job in college football is and what isn't. 10 years ago, Indiana was not a good college football job. 10 years ago, Coach Cignetti probably would have left Indiana for the Florida job or for the Penn State job or, whatever other offer he got. Because before the NIL era, where you could just go out and buy players, Indiana was not the most desirable job. It just wasn't. And yesterday, I'm on X scrolling, because Billy Napier got fired. And Dan Clements asks Clay Travis, if a coach is holding a job offer for Penn State and Florida, which one would you recommend he choose? 2 big schools with history and high hopes. And Clay Travis said this: Florida, way better recruits. You can win a national championship with only recruits within 3 hours from the campus. True, a lot of talent down there in Florida. Florida, Texas, California, those are the three big hubs for high school football. Clay Travis he's a smart guy, clearly. And he's wrong on this, though. The better job between Penn State and Florida is whichever one offers them more money, whichever one offers them more NIL. You know why Indiana is a better job than both of those schools? Because Mark Cuban's giving to the program. That's why. That is all. That is what it is about in college football right now. Why is Ohio State a great job? Because they care about football. They're clearly forking out the dough in order for them to be good. Texas, same thing, right? They just missed on Arch Manning. Okay, and so on. The best jobs in the country aren't the ones, that we based it on 10 years ago. Where it's like, location. What kind of recruits are coming into the state? I remember, what's his name? The former head coach at Houston, where his whole thing was like, we're just going to put a fence up around Houston and we're going to be really good. And that's what they did. Every great player that came out of Houston, Ed Oliver, I think kind of being the headliner of that, defensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills, like he went to Houston. Houston was really good because they just didn't let guys leave the city. That wouldn't work today because it is about money and the ability to buy players. Okay, it's not about location. It's not about what conference you're in. If Boise State offers more NIL and more funding than Penn State or Florida, then Boise State's a better job. Okay, the best jobs no longer about location or conference or any of the older stuff that used to really matter. All that matters now is how much money are they giving you to build out a roster. This is Major League Baseball. That is what this is now. You know what the best job in baseball is? Being the manager of the Yankees or the Mets or the Dodgers. You know why? Because those three teams had the highest payroll in baseball. And if you do it right, then you're going to win a lot of games and have a chance to go back-to-back and win a World Series like the Dodgers are going to have the opportunity to do this year. Whichever university has the largest checkbook, that is the best job. It's truly that simple. And I'm so glad that Indiana has decided to open up their checkbook and pay Coach Signetti and pay Fernando Mendoza to come over from Cal, because once again, he did not choose Indiana for the weather. He didn't choose Indiana for anything like that. He chose Indiana because Indiana was like, hey, we're going to pay you more than Georgia. Georgia, a team that offered him, I'm assuming, a very nice chunk of change. I know he had an offer from Georgia. I just don't know how much it was for. But I can tell you one thing. It was for less than what Indiana offered him. That's all that matters now. And so hopefully the spending from Indiana continues to be a thing, because as soon as the spending goes away, as soon as the money goes away, then it's no longer a good job. That is the very simple reality of it. Hallelujah. The Heisman odds are out. They've been updated. Fernando Mendoza is not the favorite, and he shouldn't be. Ty Simpson should be, and he is. Ty Simpson at Alabama. He's only the quarterback of the first team in the history of college football to beat a ranked team 4 weeks in a row. Sounds pretty Heisman worthy to me. Julian Sayans plus 400. He and those guys up at Ohio State, I guess over at Ohio State. They've kind of opened up the offense a little bit. Kid's got some juice. It's a great football team over there in Columbus, right? There's a reason why they're ranked number 1, and they got 60 of the 66 first place votes. Once again, Indiana got 6 of them. Going to be a lot of fun watching IU and Ohio State go at it, or likely go at it in the Big Ten title game. Ohio State still has to beat Michigan. Indiana just has to not slip up. That Penn State game that everybody thought was going to be tough is very quickly turned into what you could argue is going to be the easiest game on their schedule. Like UCLA's going to be a tougher out than Penn State at Maryland. Maryland's not bad this year. At Penn State, though, we're like 9 weeks into college football, and Penn State hasn't beaten a Power 4 team yet. I think that's really funny. Otter Creek, absolutely. Mendoza should be a finalist, and he should be invited to New York if he continues to play this well. Look, if Indiana goes 12-0, then Mendoza will be invited to New York. Because if you go undefeated and you've got a quarterback that's good, especially when he's the most important player on your offense, then they almost always get invited. So Indiana, great at football. The Colts, great at football. Let's just say great. Why not? It's a victory Monday. We're having fun here. And it's a victory Monday because not only did Indiana win, but the Colts won as well. Both the Hoosiers and the Colts cruising, absolutely cruising to victories over the weekend. More on the Colts beating the Chargers in 4 minutes.
It's in today's sports world. It's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X__ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can, of course, also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 a.m. 7 to 9. No more Maggie and Perloff or whatever that show's called. Between 7 and 9 a.m. It is the real Jonathan Smith Show, bringing you all the local sports that you need here in Indianapolis. And the Colts beating the Chargers. I'm going to talk about this more tomorrow, by the way, with Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts at 8 a.m. The NBA season starts tomorrow, so I'm going to have a little bit on the Pacers tomorrow. Not a ton, because the Colts are rolling. Colts plus 1.5 on Sunday was the easiest bet of the day. The second easiest bet was the Panthers minus 1.5 against the Jets. Bet against the Jets and Justin Fields whenever you can. Anyway, Colts plus 1.5, easiest bet of the day. Hopefully you sprinkled some on that money line as well. This Colts offense is just playing at such an elite clip that 1.5 was just, it just wasn't going to cut it. They're playing at a level that has not been matched by any offense in the NFL so far through this season. And J.J. Watt, here he is after the game talking about this Colts offense.
You can't pick one spot. This Colts offense has no weaknesses right now. They can run the ball when they want to. They can throw the ball when they want to. Screens, play actions. They have everything going. And it all happens because of that offensive line. That offensive line deserves a ton of credit. They stay ahead of the sticks. They are almost never in a first down situation where they don't pick up 4, 5, 6 yards, putting them in second and manageable. They just do such an incredible job of moving their way down the field efficiently. And Daniel Jones is spreading the ball all over the place. And Jonathan Taylor's playing like a very, very legitimate MVP candidate.
There's that word again, efficiently. Colts offense is moving the ball efficiently down the field. And that's why this is the best offense in the NFL. Been saying it for at least the last week. I think the last 2 weeks. Just incredibly impressive what we've seen this Colts team do time and time again, week after week after week. It's the best offense in the NFL, and there's no one can dispute it. Like when you look at the other best offenses in the NFL, the Chiefs, right? They're probably the closest just because they have Mahomes. They now have Rashee Rice back. They had a big day beating the Raiders 31-0. By the way, that's the same Raiders defense that the Colts hung 40 on. Okay? The Lions, right? You know, everyone wants to talk about them because they're the Lions and they score points and they run cool trick plays. And then you have the Cowboys who can really run it up there. They scored 40+ again on Sunday against the Commanders. Okay, the Colts run the football better than the Chiefs do, and they are much deeper at wide receiver than the Chiefs are. Xavier Worthy's a gadget guy. Rashee Rice, very consistent down to down. Tyquan Thornton can like only run deep. Travis Kelce's 35 years old, and I think that they're going to kind of cool off on getting him the football. That way he can be ready to go for the playoffs. So like they have their issues, right? Isaiah Pacheco, ever since I believe he broke or fractured his femur, ever since he's come back from that, he just hasn't been as good. That's very understandable. I think if I broke my femur, I don't think I'd be the same guy I was before either. But that's the reality of it for them. The Lions don't score points against good teams. They scored 17 against the Chiefs. They scored 13 against the Packers. Their scoring average is so high because they hung 52 on Chicago. So that's all that they can really do. Sure, they have the pieces all over the place, but do it against a good defense like the Colts have. You know, put 31 up on the Cardinals, put 29 up on Denver, right? And then you have the Cowboys who can really run it up there. But the difference is the Cowboys don't run the football as well as the Colts do. Also, the weapons, not as deep as what the Indianapolis Colts have top to bottom. And it was another game on Sunday for the Colts where the offense was just like, don't worry about a defense. Give me like a turnover or two, and we'll take care of the rest. So what happened? The Colts offense carrying the load, and the defense was once again very opportunistic. That is the way of the defense so far this year. Grover Stewart makes a really nice play, bats a ball at the line of scrimmage, pops straight up in the air, falls into his arms, and we had a nice little big man interception. Right? Nick Cross makes a really good play in the end zone. Justin Herbert leaves the ball a little bit too far behind his receiver, puts it on his back hip instead of his front hip, and Nick Cross jumps in and he picks it off. Great play from him. Right? Aside from that, I didn't love the defense, but hey, they did enough to win. That's really all that I care about. But once again, the story is this Indianapolis Colts offense. Daniel Jones, super efficient. That is the word for him. 23 of 34 throwing the football, 288 yards, 8.5 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, only took 1 sack. Shout out to the offensive line. That continues to be arguably the best in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor only had 16 carries, but he had 94 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Pretty impressive there, if you ask me. Amir Abdullah, older player. I remember when he was playing running back at Nebraska. 2 carries, did a lot with them. 19 yards on 2 carries. Pretty impressive. Daniel Jones, didn't really run it much. It's just another very well-rounded day from the Colts wide receivers. Alec Pierce, 5 receptions for 98 yards. He led the way. He was targeted 10 times. Jeez, really impressive stuff from him. They gave him a lot of chances down the field as well, which was really fun to see. Michael Pittman Jr., 7 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Warren, 4 receptions, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Just another very well day. Jonathan Taylor, he had 3 receptions for 38 yards. Just another incredible day from the best offense in the NFL. There are other good offenses in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. Like that, the Chiefs offense with Rashee Rice, really good. Really good. Lions putting up points against bad teams. We'll see how they do tonight when they play against the Buccaneers, who are extremely banged up. The Cowboys, they can run it up there. This Colts offense, it's different than everybody else. It is. They had the football 8 times yesterday. They had 8 possessions. They scored on 6 of them. That's impressive. If you're going to score on 75% of your drives, then you're going to win games. By the way, that's 8 possessions minus the final possession where they just kneeled it out. Even if you just kick field goals, I guess that's only 18 points. But still, right? If you kick 5 field goals and you score 1 touchdown, like that's 22, and for a lot of teams, that's more than their gamely average, all right? And then you throw in the fact just of how efficient this Colts team has been in the red zone. I just it's impressive. Them kicking the field goal at the end of the first half broke a pretty long streak of them scoring touchdowns when they've entered the red zone, a thing that they really struggled with to start the season. But they were extremely conservative on that possession. If they had wanted to kind of push the foot on the gas a little bit more there, then they probably would have scored another touchdown with the way that they were rolling at that point in the game. And I very rarely complain about announcers or anything like that. But I don't know why Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt were complaining about the Colts end of the half clock management. They didn't want to give the ball back to the Chargers. That makes sense. It does. Right? Like if you give the ball back to L.A., because they ran the clock, the Colts did, all the way down on like a 3rd and 4 attempt. And if you go faster and you don't get it, then you're giving the ball back to L.A. with like a minute and 20 seconds to go. And then you give the Chargers a chance to double them up, right? Because they can go touchdown to close the first half, and then they can open the second half with a touchdown. So I understand why the Colts were super conservative there. They didn't want to give the Chargers any sort of chance to respond. Here is Coach Steichen after the game talking about their clock management at the end of the first half.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to score touchdowns. I think it depends on field position, but definitely with 10 over there, we know that, they're an explosive offense with him. But felt good about the calls too. You know what I mean? I think that's part of it, field position and where you're at and feeling good with the calls. And I got a lot of trust and faith in our guys on offense to go execute it. So, that's kind of the thought process there.
Shane Steichen right there talking about why they weren't more aggressive at the end of the first half. They settled for the field goal. And, I'll be honest, being up 24 going into halftime would have been really nice, but I think being up 20 going into the half isn't too bad either. So just super impressed by the Colts and this offense. In the second half, they cooled down a little bit because they just didn't have the football. Like the Chargers held the ball for over 20 minutes in that second half. The Colts obviously had it for less than 10. But another really impressive part of the Colts win yesterday was the fact that it never got interesting. Nothing ever happened where I had to oh man, I really need to sit up here and pay some extra attention. If you missed the Giants game, and you might have because they were on at the same time as the Colts were. If you missed that game, the Giants were up 19-0 on the road in Denver going into the fourth quarter against the Broncos, and they lost. Colts, they never let that happen. And they definitely could have. The Chargers come out, they score a very quick touchdown. And for a moment, I was like, all right, only down by 13. Let's kind of see how this goes here. And then the Chargers, I thought, did the smart thing. They kick it off to Amir Abdullah, who's not the Colts' normal kickoff returner. And he says, oh, okay, let me just take off for 81 yards here really quickly. And it's the Colts are already in field goal range. Jeez, that's nice. And then two plays later, they run this little sweep to Jonathan Taylor. He runs through the front right corner of the end zone, and the Colts take the lead. They then go for two. They hit Michael Pittman, and all of a sudden they're up by 21. And it's yeah, all right, well, that kind of ends that. And then, you relax a little bit, and then the Chargers score again. Chargers cut the lead down to 14. It's the Colts, they'll just score again, right? Because that's what they've done all day. Nope, Colts go 3 and out. And then a Colts defense that had just been getting torched the entire second half walks out there. And the Chargers have the football with a little under 13 minutes left to go in the game. That is usually plenty of time to score, get a stop, and then get the ball back. And that didn't happen. The Colts are just nope, we're actually just going to end the game right here. The Colts sat back for that entire drive from the Chargers, right? They sit back and they let the Chargers kind of dink and dunk their way down the field. The Chargers are playing their 6th offensive tackle. Leatu Latu's getting home. DeForest Buckner, he's getting home. And so on. The Colts had three sacks yesterday. Latu had 1, and DeForest Buckner had 2. And the Colts are just we're going to let our pass rush, kind of take control of the game here, and then we're going to have our linebackers and our safeties come up and tackle when they need to. The Colts could not have done that last year. That option was just completely and totally unavailable to them because the Colts didn't tackle well enough last year to do that. You can only sit back and play that, we're going to let you dink and dunk it your way down the field and take 9.5 minutes off the clock defense. You can only do that when you tackle well. And to the Colts' credit, they don't miss tackles. Nick Cross, when he gets his hands on you, you're coming down to the ground. Cam Bynum, same thing. Charvarius Ward, I know he didn't play yesterday, same thing. Even these backup corners for the Colts, their ability to tackle is so impressive. Zaire Franklin, I feel like he's been more consistent this year. I don't know what the numbers say, but watching him, it feels a little more consistent. The Colts didn't miss tackles yesterday, and that is what allowed them to keep the game at 2 possessions. The Chargers never had a chance, even if they convert that 4th and 21. Even if they convert it, then it's like, okay, like you're going to score and there's going to be 2 minutes left. And then and then you're going to try for an onside kick, one of which no one ever really gets anymore. The Chargers never had a chance, and it speaks to the Colts offense and the way that this defense is tackled this year. I've been very critical of this Colts defense. They clearly need to make a trade. I know everyone wants an edge rusher, not me. I want them to go and get a corner. That's what I want. I think that would help them much more in the short term, but we'll see what they do. We have a few weeks until the deadline. Hopefully Chris Ballard can make something shake. I don't think that he will. And he's going to come back and be like, we wanted to make a deal, but it has to be the right deal. That's probably what we're going to hear from. It's probably what we're going to hear from Chris Ballard at some point here during the season. But the Colts are 6-1. I certainly wasn't expecting that. Daniel Jones had some words for the people who weren't expecting that. I got that audio for you in 4 minutes.
Hi, I'm Chef Franklin Becker. You know the jingle. Now discover the facts about Ozempic, a GLP-1. There's only one FDA-approved Ozempic made by Novo Nordisk. Learn about the real thing.
Talk to your healthcare professional today. Call 1-833-OZEMPIC or visit Ozempic.com to view the medication guide and to learn more about Ozempic. Semaglutide injection 0.5, 1, and 2 milligrams.
Every morning, we rise and shine, make breakfast, and brush away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day off right. Nature-Made vitamins are a simple step in that daily care regimen. Multivitamins with daily essentials, clinically studied probiotics for gut health support, magnesium to help relax the body. Nature-Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Talk It's at noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching the show on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app for 1430 a.m. if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. And if you want a little bit more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page as well. The Colts are 6-1. Who would have thought? Not me. I can tell you that much. And they're doing it behind an incredibly high-powered offense. Daniel Jones rewriting kind of the story of his career here in Indianapolis after a rough start to it in New York. Here is Daniel Jones after the game on the field talking to that one CBS reporter who's got way too much stuff in his hair. It doesn't look good. Anyway, here's Daniel Jones.
Daniel, congrats on the win. 3 straight wins, 3 straight games, 30-plus points. How's this offense and you leading it making it look so easy?
I think just, trying to execute at a high level. I think we're prepared going in. Coaches have done a great job game planning us, getting us ready, and then we've executed. I think the guys up front have played great. We've been able to run it. We've been able to throw it. So stuff to work on, but, something to build on.
Not that you care, but those of us on the outside, I think, are a little surprised at just how well this team is playing to start the season. What do we need to know about this group that maybe we didn't know going into the year?
I don't know. It sounds like y'all didn't know much, but we're just going to keep going, keep working, and we have a lot of confidence. I think we got a lot of good players, guys who work hard and do the right things.
You mentioned confidence. You've been playing this position for a long time. How much confidence are you playing with right now?
Yeah, I think, confident in our execution and who we have, and our, how prepared we are going in week to week. But, very, very confident. I think we all are.
Last one for you. You've been around a lot of great backs as well. What does Jonathan Taylor bring to this group?
Yeah, he's tremendous. He's incredible. Big game from him again today. It seems like week after week he shows up and pops those big runs. A couple in the red zone there that are real difference makers. But he's tremendous and has played at a really, really high level all season.
Daniel Jones right there talking about this Colts team and their 6-1 start, 3 straight wins, 3 straight games, scoring 30 or more points. They've become so much more efficient in the red zone, and they're just a legitimately good football team. Hand up. I didn't think they'd be this good, and I don't feel bad saying that because I think most people felt kind of the way that I did. The team's going to hover around 500 and all those things. I figured they'd be able to run the football well, but I just didn't think that they'd be consistent enough in the passing game, and I also didn't think that their defense would be good enough for them to string together wins. Still not sold on this Colts defense, but Daniel Jones has proven me wrong at every single turn. He's a legitimately good quarterback, and when you have an offense that's operating at this level and you can run the football the way that the Colts have all year, and you've got, a quarterback in Daniel Jones who's this efficient, then all of a sudden you're 6-1. Okay? Seriously, right? Like you could argue him for MVP. My vote still remains with Baker Mayfield, but if you voted for Daniel Jones, I'd get it. He's the quarterback of the best offense in the league on the team that has the best record in the league. So I get it. Here's Coach Shane Steichen on Daniel Jones and really kind of the Colts offense as a whole. He gives Daniel Jones a compliment in here, though, that fully explains why the Colts are as good as they are right now.
Yeah, we got to keep going. But I think, those guys are connected at the hip. Like I said, it's this stuff you don't see behind the scenes. The work that's put in every day. Daniel's, as good as it gets when it comes to the preparation. He's going to be prepared, and I just have no doubt he's going to go out and play well every time we step on the field, and I think our guys know that, and he gets us going. Our offensive line sets the tone, but his preparation is just off the charts.
Coach Steichen right there talking about Daniel Jones, and he said it right there in that clip. Every time He steps out onto the field. We have confidence that he is going to play well. The consistency of the offense continues to improve, and it continues to be the most, or doesn't continue to improve, excuse me, and it continues to be the most impressive thing on this team, and it's the reason why they keep winning games. They never get behind schedule. They go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 6 to 3rd and 2 to 1st and 10. That's why they keep winning games. They're running the ball at will. Daniel Jones and his ability to consistently make the right decision with the football, that's his quote-unquote superpower. You know, Anthony Richardson's superpower is his ability to run fast and snap bands at lightning speed. For Daniel Jones, it's his ability to just make the right decision. And you have to have that if you want to win football games in the NFL. And the Colts have a quarterback who just doesn't turn it over. And when you can run the ball and you don't turn it over and your quarterback's efficient and you have an opportunistic defense, you're going to score a lot of points and you're going to start 6-1 like the Colts have. The Colts have played one game all year where they made mistakes, and that's the one game that they lost. That's it. Is the game on the road against the Rams. Outside of that, I mean, they've played dang near flawless football. Now, I don't think that this, Colts team is, I still don't think that this is like a Super Bowl level team. I just don't think that their defense is good enough. I mean, outside of, the 2 interceptions that Justin Herbert threw, he really had his way with his defense. So someone in the YouTube chat, let me pull it up here. Ross saying, I don't know if that's what everyone wants. I don't know if it's that everyone wants the pass rusher the most. I think pass rusher may be the most realistic option to get an impact guy. I just, the idea that the Bengals are going to give up Trey Hendrickson, I don't think is there. I'd be very surprised if they moved him for 2 reasons. 1, they are the Bengals. 2, they clearly want to win. If they didn't want to win, then they wouldn't have traded for Joe Flacco. It's the reality of it. Joe Burrow is also supposed to come back, hopefully, at some point during this season. Right? So that obviously has an impact on it as well. So for the Colts, like, I just, and like if you go get a Bradley Chubb or a Jalen Phillips or someone like that, like I just, are they really super big, like impact guys? Meanwhile, Tariq Woolen out in Seattle, like that guy, you bring him in and you pair him with Charvarius Ward. All of a sudden, this Colts defense has one of the best combinations of cornerbacks in the NFL. That to me is way more valuable than adding another, above average pass rusher. That's how I view it. Now, maybe my view's wrong. It's very possible. Maybe they go out and they trade for a Jalen Phillips or a Bradley Chubb or who else might be available. Or someone else kind of on that level, because I think that's what's going to be available. Like Myles Garrett's not coming available. Max Crosby isn't coming available. Like none of those dream guys that are getting paid boats and boats loads of money. None of those guys are going to be available for trades. And even if they were, the Colts would have to give up so much that I don't know if it'd really be worth it. Okay, so I think that they should go and get a corner. We'll see what they do, though. Thank you, Mike.
You're very welcome.
Coffee bet. I won. Anyway, so that's my concern with this Colts team. Now, with that being said, it's really hard to lose when you score on every possession. If the Colts offense just continues to be this efficient, then you're going to have to beat the Colts 38-35. And now, while this Colts defense isn't very good, and it'd probably be pretty easy to score 38 on this Colts defense, especially if you have a good quarterback, there are only a handful of quarterbacks in the NFL capable of running an offense that can be that efficient. 4 of those quarterbacks, however, are in the AFC. That's part of my caution with the Colts. But that being said, it's very hard to play mistake-free football for 60 minutes. It's part of why watching the Colts is honestly so much fun. Because it's just like, you mean they're just going to make every play? Yeah, they are. And it's been so much fun to watch. And that continues to be the defining quality for the Colts. They do not make mistakes. The one game they did, they lost. But outside of that, they've played, I think, the cleanest football of anyone else in the NFL. They don't have, excluding the Rams game, they don't really turn it over. One interception against the Cardinals for Daniel Jones. I don't think the Colts have lost a fumble all year. And then you throw in the fact that this defense, as many questions as I have about it, I raved about their ability to tackle in that last segment. They don't really miss tackles outside of only having 10 guys on the field against the Rams. They don't have any sort of like coverage busts, right? Like whenever there's a completion, it's not because a Colts player is out of place. It's because the Colts player playing defense, it just isn't very good. Ooh, good coffee. Love coffee. Anyway. That's the reality with this Colts team. And it has been so much fun to watch, and I'm excited for their next game. I just I'm so looking like the week that this team is on a bye is going to be so sad. So I'm like, oh, you mean I don't get to watch just this hyper efficient offense march the football up and down the field on everybody? Jeez, they play the Colts at home next week at 4:25. I love that they're playing these 4:25 games because there's less games on. And when there's less games on, it's obviously easier for national media and for the voters to watch the Colts. Here's the thing. Part of why Daniel Jones is not a higher favorite to win the MVP is because the Colts only play in one primetime game all year. That's Monday Night Football against the 49ers, who are like a zombie. They just never really die. It's incredible what Kyle Shanahan has done with that team. Anyway. So the fact that they're getting more of these like 4:25 windows, I think is important just in like post-season accolade stuff, because you want to be on, because like if you're on at 1 o'clock, there's 6 other games on. And it's harder for these voters to watch you. But if you're on a 4:25 or prime time, there's obviously less things to compete against. And so your chances to win those awards goes up. I think that's part of why Mahomes is the favorite. He's going to play more primetime games than everybody else this year again. And that helps his odds tremendously. That's going to do it here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. New time, 7 to 9 a.m. I'll be back here tomorrow talking more Colts, more Chargers, more Indiana, a little bit of Pacers because the NBA season starts tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Be here, tuned in, ready to go. I will talk to you tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m.